What's up, War Report family? It's game day. We got Auburn versus San Jose State. Let's go.
Pregame, halftime, and post the whole time the chat live. We around our folks, but we gon' keep the chat tight, keeping out trolls. That's why you gotta get your green name on, your pregame on, cause ain't nobody doing it better, reviewing it better, building rapport so you in tune with the players, with some quick prize picks so you can scoop you some cheddar. Get your mug or your shirt with the letters. Game time.
What's up, War Report family? We are back with another game day. It's your boy Mike G. I got Ike Jones and B. Will. I'm going to bring in here in a second. Before we get started, this is your War Report pregame brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is sponsoring the War Report this fall and every spring. So pick along with us. If you followed along last week, you definitely won some money. So let's get at this. We got two props today. Today we're gonna do a little Caleb Williams action. So you can go into the search bar up here, type in USC. We're gonna pick Caleb Williams' total fantasy score. So we want him to get more than 29.5 fantasy points today. We picked fantasy points last week for Anthony Richardson. He killed it for us. We're going to do the same thing with Caleb Williams. So if you don't play fantasy football, that means 1 point for every 25 yards passing, 6 points for a touchdown, and 1 point for every 10 yards rushing for the quarterback. We think that's all going to total up to more than 29.5 points. For our second pick, we're going to do a little Tank Bigsby action today. So type in Auburn right here. We'll pull up the picks. Tank is the only option there for this game. They didn't want to give us anything else, but we got to bet on Auburn. So we're going to take Tank Bigsby fantasy score as well, too. He got a couple of touchdowns, which was 12 points, plus over 100 yards rushing last week to top our total of 18.5. This week, it's 20.5. So you're going to go over here to the right. You're going to select more and more on both of these. We're betting $25 on our entry. We're going to place that entry. And that is a wrap for this week's fantasy picks. Get your picks in, sponsored by prizepicks.com, and get your win on. I'm going to bring in Ike Jones, B. Will. Guys, it's game day. Exciting day in college football today. Lots of happenings going on. I know B. Will's got some smoke for Jimbo because history is being made right now. Guys, how do we feel about the game today?
I mean, listen, if the weather holds off, Auburn should win this game. But hopefully they've been looking at these other games and watching people falter against lesser opponents, whether it's been in a loss or just in a closer game than what you anticipated. And they just go out here and handle business. And we get to see three quarterbacks is what I want to see today. If we play three quarterbacks today, and that doesn't include an injury, that means we smoked San Jose State.
How much, B. Will, do we want to see Zach Calzada today, potentially?
You know what? If we see Zach Calzada, that means TJ took care of business. Robbie took care of business. We got no resistance, and we get to see Zach. Okay. Absolutely, I want to see that happen. I want to see that happen. I want to see Robbie get some serious drives, more than just spot plays here and there, than situational things. And in those drives, for every quarterback, we move the ball down the field. We get our chunk plays. We get the ball in the end zone. And that is the best case scenario. A third quarterback in this game is the best case scenario for Auburn today.
Yes. Listen, if you're joining us, this is our War Report pregame, Auburn versus San Jose State. We got a few chats here. We got a super chat from Amani Smoot. He says, I knew all these teams were overrated. LOL, AAU going 15-0.
Amani Smoot showing up. Listen, man, Amani's. If we get some sort of Sunshine Pump sponsor, I have to send Amani something because he comes through. Imani could be a she.
Yeah, for sure.
Smoot comes through with the sunshine each time, so I'm not mad at it.
All right, let's call this the B. Will chat because we got lots of love for B. Will and Jimothy Hate in the chat today. B. Will, let's go, my guy. Jimothy. Down goes Jimothy. B. Will is like the teapot simmering on the stove. He's ready to pop. Oh, my goodness. We are going to have so much smoke next week for Texas A&M.
Tomorrow. tomorrow
We're gonna start. We're gonna start tomorrow. We're gonna make it like a festival. It's gonna be a week-long celebration.
Hopefully, Auburn is not on that list. This is your pregame live. We are here with myself, Ike Jones, B. Will. This is brought to you by PrizePicks.com. Guys, go to prizepicks.com and register. Use code REPORT to get a 100% match on your first deposit. This is a great way to support our content by supporting our sponsors. C-Dub is not joining us. He's at the game live in the booth today, checking out what's going on live. Guys, what do we expect from Auburn today? What do we want to see from Auburn today to stay off this list of chaos that's going on in college football right now?
I mean, I think the big thing is just to stay mistake-free as far as turnovers, right? Like, don't give them momentum by having a stupid turnover or a stupid costly penalty, right? Like, just go in there, play clean. Clean is really, like, that's what they need to focus on. Clean execution and clean football. We don't even need style points here, right? Like, I don't care how far they run the score up. Just go out here, hang 40 on these boys. Don't have a bunch of stupid defensive things and get out the game injury-free, mistake-free.
B. Will, all eyes are going to be on quarterback today. Robbie Ashford created some buzz last week with his play. TJ Finley also created some buzz last week with his play. What do we expect to see from the quarterback position? Do we expect any surprises at game time with who the starter is?
If we do see surprises at game time, as far as the starter, I don't think it matters. I think both guys are even. And for the first time, I think the game day roster reads or at quarterback, which is the development that we thought after you see the play last week. Both guys, though, are still in a position, if they play their best game, to at the very least get the starting job for next week. I think that's fair. Whoever shows best, if we get a repeat performances from both guys, Robbie's the first QB against Penn State. That's easy. You can't throw. I gave TJ some grace last week. If you're going to make mistakes, you make them early. You make them when the game isn't on the line. Now, this is the correction. This is the turn. We need you to look good, just like I want Robbie to look outstanding playing the ball, because I want two very good, incredible quarterbacks to have in our back pocket. I don't want one guy that's great and one guy that's We've done that before. We've had a guy that's and guys that are terrible. We've done that before. For the first time, and we've talked about this all offseason, our room looks good. I want to see both of these guys play very well so we can know and have confidence that our room will look good for the rest of the season.
Ike, listen, a little buzz about running back last week as well, too. Both running backs look good. Jarquez Hunter had 3 touchdowns. Tank has 2. What do we expect to see from the run game today?
Yeah, San Jose State, just from a physicality standpoint, should not be able to do a lot. So I anticipate another big day from the running back room. Sean Jackson should be healthy enough to get some snaps today. So I don't know if we're going to see Damari Alston, but I really would love to see 300 yards on the ground today. So I'm hoping Tank has another big game. I mean, of course, we just put him on our prize picks card, so part of that is a little selfish. Outside of the rooting interest, there's a secondary interest for me wanting to see Tank go off. But I'd like to see Tank Bigsby, not have to play the second half of this game. He's done his yeoman's work. Let Jarquez Hunter come in, carry the second half, and then whatever other third back comes in to do the split duty in the second half with Jarquez Hunter.
Yeah, I got to believe Tank is trying to get as much tape as possible this year, right? Because this is probably his last year playing college football. I assume he's going pro, so he's going to want to make a splash. Let's get to some super chats here. Ben Bloworth says, would Bama have ever psychologically recovered from losing to a kicker named Auburn? Listen, the memes were ready. People were DMing me the memes that were fired and ready to go for this. So
for sure. I think their fans would have been a little less pleased than the team. I think the team would have taken this as the kick in the butt that they probably already did. But the loss would have been very tasty.
It would have stung for sure. Blake Robinson says, Warrior gentlemen, sharing some of my hard-earned OT money from this past week. As always, we appreciate you, sir.
Thank you, Blake. Thank you.
Lee Van says, Auburn on the come up. Listen, there was a lot of Auburn last in the West talk before the season started. We know how much the media gets this wrong. That includes myself and Ike Jones. This year, we did not pick Auburn last.
No.
Screw you. I may have picked Vandy first. I may have been the one guy that voted for Vandy in the East, but
That was not me.
We
For
won't
sure.
talk about that. That guy Rick says, "Is there a promo code for prospects? Rapport. It's always rapport. Everything we do, the code is rapport. Get that 100% match. We appreciate you, Rick. Use that. Make sure you get that money before you register." All right, so let's talk defense here for a second. Last week, Derek Hall, Eku Leota showed off some skills, but I think people felt like the defensive performance was a little lackluster. What do we expect to see from the defense this week in terms of pass rush?
Listen, if last week's game versus Portland State is any indication, I expect our defensive line to tee off here. There's no reason why Portland State could get, I think, 7 sacks last week, and Auburn can't reproduce that total. I don't care how much work they did in the previous week to try to get themselves ready to shore up their pass rush. They're dealing with a different caliber of athlete here, and they should be able to go in. Auburn should be able to go in and impose their will physically. I expect both of those young men to come away with a multiple sack game, Eku Leota and Derek Hall.
B. Will, no turnovers last week for the Auburn defense. What do we expect to see this week? We did a facts or no on this one. Does Auburn get a turnover on defense? What do turnovers look like in this?
I think we get at least 2. I expect an INT and at least 1 fumble forced for our defense, whether we recover it. I'm going to say at least 1 recovered fumble. I think their quarterback is going to do some running around, but I think the D-line will look to kind of redeem itself because they got their hands on a couple of guys a couple of times and didn't bring them down. And I think this week that turns into some sacks and some sack fumbles and some strip fumbles. So I expect at least 2 turnovers for our defense, at least 1 in the secondary because Harsin kind of, I don't want to say call those guys out. He did what coaches are supposed to do. He stated his expectations after a disappointing performance, and I think the secondary will get that message and play up to par.
Right. Let's get to some chats here. Phil Coleman says, "I feel better about the Missouri game because K-State put it on them." This is this year South Carolina. How do we feel about Missouri? Maybe
I caution people on the transitive property of football, right? Like it just doesn't mean because some other team did well that your team will. But I wasn't super high on Missouri ever. So I didn't feel bad about that game to begin with. So I don't feel any less. I don't know. I'm really in the same place. We should win that football game. I just hope that, again, we handle our business today. And then when we get to next week, Missouri defensively is the same Missouri that we saw last year in today's game against K-State, which is
Super chat from burner account says, "Don't look now, but Arkansas is playing the best ball in the West so far. I'm not ready to make judgments on them just yet."
Yeah.
So I mean, they look terrible.
I wasn't particularly impressed with Arkansas today offensively. I mean, they were, again, that when I say stuff like that, people take that as hyperbole, meaning I thought they sucked, which is not necessarily the case. They ran the ball very effectively.
Right.
I'm not convinced and never have been convinced that KJ Jefferson can beat a team throwing the ball. And that's really what I want to be able to see is if you have a team that is physically able to stop their run, can KJ Jefferson beat you with his arm? I'm not convinced of that yet. And today didn't do anything to make me feel any better about his ability to do that because he really didn't have to. I'm not looking at the stuff right now, but when I last looked at that game, they had over 300 yards on the ground. Right. So like, it wasn't like KJ Jefferson was picking teams apart. And he didn't do that last season. He had a couple of big games where he threw a lot, but by and large, you handle them on the ground. It stops the effectiveness of the play fake, which is where he was getting a lot of those chunk yards. And then Treylon Burks doing the rest on the back end. Hazelwood looks good though.
Not Burks. You mean
Treylon Burks as far as the pass catcher? Yes.
Oh, you mean last year?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm talking about last year. That's what the recipe was play action.
Right.
And then if he had to throw it to someone under duress, Treylon Burks, just get it to him somewhere and let him do the work. This year, Hazelwood looks good. They do have some guys in that thing, but we'll see. Again, there's a lot of football between now and Arkansas.
Yeah, for sure. John Sledge says, "I want to thank the member that gifted me a membership, Ward Amigo.
Yeah.
Membership gifts come when I'm at my computer, West Wide Open. This is a new thing. If you're on your desktop, you can gift memberships to fellow members. It's just 1 month. There's no recurring charge, and it's up to them whether they want to re-up on that membership or not. We hope everybody re-is up to help support the work that we're doing here." Don Cullen says, "Coach Harsin told these guys to cut it loose, leave it all on the field. Don't hold back." John Brannon, our guy, last in the West. My Fill in the blank.
I like that. No, that's he made a little took his
Yeah,
with the
it's
text there.
lots going on there. D Lev says, "How's the 5-win clan feeling now?" Philip Coleman, I feel better about. Oh, we already read that one. So, yeah, we got lots going on here. I want to talk wide receiver play for a little bit. Javarius Johnson emerged as the go-to guy last week. Do we expect a repeat performance from him, or was he just the guy open? And do we expect somebody else to step up this week at wide receiver?
I think there's going to be a combination of that. I talked about this a little bit on the Wednesday show, and from looking at the film, Portland State was able to use the slot receiver as a frequent target in that game. He wasn't like some big slot guy, so it was like a small, shifty receiver, just a good guy who knew how to find the holes in the zone that they were running. If they're going to play a similar defense, I expect whoever is in the slot to get another big game. So that's Javarius, that's, potentially Check Dawson, whoever's going to be, whether Coy Moore slides over into that slot, which we hear Coy Moore is going to be starting in place of Malcolm Johnson at the outside receiver this week. But, whoever's going to be in that slot, maybe our guy Jay Fair gets in there and he goes off, saying, so it's a possibility we have somebody from that slot. But again, I would say look at the slot and the tight end position today to be the point of where there's going to be openings against this San Jose team unless they figured out how to fix that between week 1 and week 2.
B. Will, how you feel about wide receiver this week?
I was hoping we would get to see Camden Brown last week because we had heard so much about him. He made the 2 deep, so I was like, okay, definitely we're going to see him, right? It didn't work out that way. I didn't think we made enough. I don't want to say we didn't make enough attempts. Javarius Johnson was getting open.
No, he got on the field. He got on the field.
He did. Yeah, I mean, as far as targets, that's what I mean. So Javarius Johnson was burning people, man. He was getting open. He was wide open, and he was getting thrown open by our quarterback, which is even a more welcome sight to see. But I really hope that these other guys, and I think it was Zion Puckett when he talked to the media Monday, he said a lot of guys kind of had the jitters. I think he was talking about the secondary guys, but I've got to imagine that to be the same for the other guys who was just their first time playing in a stadium holding that many people. So this was a big deal for them. That was the first time on the field, in pads, in front of the crowd. So maybe they'll settle down a little bit, get on the field a little bit. And I want to see some of the other guys get some targets, not forcing it to people because that's not what I want to see from our offense. Right. I want to see it. Guys getting open, hitting different receivers. We saw Shank's dependable. We saw Shed getting some targets. He's dependable, Javarius, but would love to see Camden Brown. I don't think we had a lot of red zone, like 10 yards and in situations where some jump balls or some fades would have been ideal. So hopefully we get some of those situations today and get some of that action going.
Yeah, listen, we played a lot of guys last week. Auburn put a lot of guys on the field last week. This is the second week of what I would like to call auditions. Where if you're going to prove that you can be trusted in the big games, you've got to show up now if you get a chance to get on the field. So for Camden, he didn't really blow his opportunity because they didn't target him. Right. But in this game, if he gets any targets, it's imperative that you catch the ball, similar to Robbie Ashford getting his shot last week. Right. When they gave him a chance to throw the ball, he showed that he can throw it effectively. I think it's going to be the same thing for some of these receivers this week. Kind of switching back to the other side of the ball, defensive back. Now, pass rush, I thought left a little to be desired. Felt like the defensive backs were on an island. Do we see a different rotation of backs? We played a lot of defensive backs. We saw DJ James out there a lot. Donovan Kaufman, of course, got the start. Keontae Scott looked good. Did he earn a starting spot? What do we see from defensive back this week?
I think they're going to give similarly. I think defensive back, particularly in the side of the ball, when we're talking about Pritchett, is in a very similar situation to the quarterback position, which is this is a prove it game to see who's going to be getting the most, if not starting reps next week against Penn State. If Pritchett has a repeat performance like this game, you might see Keontae Scott slide into that spot. Similarly to like how we've been talking about TJ Finley. If he has a repeat performance, then we might be looking at a new quarterback going into week 3. But I do expect the defensive backfield, based upon what I saw on tape, to play a little more zone this game. I think that they were attempting to do more man pressure stuff up front just to challenge their defensive backs to play that last week. I expect a little more zone this week, trying to play it a little safer and hopefully get a good pass rush and force some turnovers on the backside there. But I expect them to play better this week. If we're to believe that they had jitters game 1, we don't need to see that game 2. You've gotten that all out of the way. Let's go out here and play football this week.
C-Dub is reporting that Malcolm is dressed out, but Coy Moore may be starting in his place, so something to watch there at receiver. Keontae Scott, he looked pretty good on punt returns. What do we expect to see on special teams today?
Special teams, I'm hoping we can continue punting with no returns. I don't want returns on kickoffs. I don't want returns on punts. We do a pretty good job of that. People haven't really been racking up yards against us for a while now. Now, our punt returns, Keontae Scott, he looks sudden. He looks twitchy. And that's a great quality to have as a punt returner. I would love to see him on the field more. Just for regular snaps, because I want that type of speed and that type of aggressiveness in the defensive backfield. But as far as punt return, I would love to see us break one. I watched the San Jose State, their game one. I didn't recall what their special teams look like, so I don't know how we match up against them. But I gotta imagine with the focus that this coaching staff puts on special teams, like that's how other guys are gonna play their way into playing time. So they're not slacking on special teams. I expect us to not have any gaps and breakdowns, but whether we get a punt return or kickoff for a TD, I wouldn't call it. If there was a 0.5 over under, I would probably bet the over. I'm not going to lie. We just got better athletes. We could probably do it, but who knows?
Yeah. I said it this week. This is not a good team.
It's not.
This is not a good team. They should beat this team handily. Before we get some chats here, just want to remind everybody, this is the week 2 pregame show for Auburn versus San Jose State. The Tigers are playing San Jose State in week 2 to see if they can go 2-0 to start the season. As always, this is brought to you by prizepicks.com. Please use code RAPPORT to get a 100% match on your first deposit with Prize Picks, courtesy of the War Report and Prize Picks. Follow along with us, man, and win some money. We won some money last week. We hope to win some money this week, because winning money on our picks means Auburn does well. So thanks to prizepicks.com for sponsoring the War Report. Let's get to some chats here. Arkansas beats Bama in 2 weeks. It's a bold take. Now, a lot of people just think that they're shocked. Oh my God, Bama isn't what we thought they were. And I'm like, no, if you watch the show, they're exactly what we thought they were, right? They've got some of the same deficiencies last year offensively, plus some, don't they?
They probably do. I think everybody thought that Jamison Williams was something that could be reproduced just by bringing in another highly touted transfer receiver, but it's not that simple. For everything we've heard about Bill O'Brien's offense, he runs a pro-style offense, and we've seen how rough the transition is here. Even though their quarterback is in tune with the offense, we saw several times today during that game where the wide receivers weren't in place and weren't doing what they were supposed to do to receive the ball and help the quarterback. So, yeah, it takes time for that stuff to happen. Now, do I think they'll look this out of sync by game 10? No, probably not. But Arkansas does play them soon. But Arkansas's defense, though, I don't know, man. I don't know. I think Texas probably has better talent on defense than Arkansas does. So it makes sense that Texas would be able to get up for one game and affect Bama like that. But you're putting a lot on Arkansas's defense to say, hey, you can absolutely stop these guys. I am not ready to make that claim.
So I said this, I think in our chat, like Catalan to me is the guy that makes that defense go. When he went down last year, that defense was playing significantly worse. He's hurt again. And they don't look as impressive. They just, I don't know. It's that they don't have a lot of depth right now on their defense. And so when they lose the guy who I guess apparently has injury issues, it's going to be hard to replace that guy, man. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know that Arkansas has it up front yet.
Yeah. If I'm sure about anything about Bama, I'm sure that Bryce Young is 100% that dude. That's the only thing I'm sure about on that team. Everything else I saw is questionable. But he, again, similar to last year, to me, in my opinion, put that team on his back in crunch time. That last drive felt eerily similar to the last drive of the Iron Bowl, where he just took the team down the field for the winning score. It just it hurt. It hurt. My worst nightmare happened. Bama won, but they didn't cover. So I lost twice.
Yeah.
It's too bad. Big Mike 93 says, I think we see Camden tonight. I think a lot of people are hoping that we see Camden tonight.
Yeah, for sure.
CM Pat says, where the hell is Landon King? That's a great question. Yeah.
Listen, he's there.
Tweeting through it.
He's there. Okay, so the question we have to ask is, he converted to wide receiver. Who do you put over wide receiver? Put him over? Who do you sub him out for? Because honestly, Shed's got more experience and he's become more dependable. Malcolm Johnson Jr. as a starter, or Coy Moore. I think he's probably got more dynamic ability, combination of speed and pass catching. Landon King now is a really big wide receiver, but he may not be a fast wide receiver. And the guys we have on the field now are fast.
Right.
So I think it's going to be kind of situational when he sees the field. I wouldn't be surprised if we get into a goal line situation, you see a Landon King in the slot. And then you see a Camden Brown at the X. Like now we're getting interesting because we've got really big guys everywhere. But we'll see what the staff decides to do with that going forward.
Yeah, what I'm trusting in as far as Landon King, though, is that I think they've shown the propensity just with the way that they're going to put two quarterbacks on the field. They're going to try to use our talent in whatever way that they can deploy them. So I think Landon King has a spot on this team. It just may not be with the regularity that we have wanted to see because we've loved Landon King based upon what we've seen its early results.
Right.
But if he's patient enough, he'll have his time.
Are we shocked that we're not seeing more 4 receiver sets out there? Like we haven't seen that
not this early in the season. No, I think
think you're saving it.
I 100% like. I think 4 receiver sets is something. Now we may see it today because the 4 and 5 receiver sets against San Jose State last week that Portland displayed were killing them. When they spread those guys out. Now, part of it too, again, Portland State had a mobile quarterback. So if they go to a 4 and 5 receiver set situation with Robbie in the game, it may look like deja vu for San Jose State. But I do expect that we will likely deploy some of that this week. I think right now they're just trying to make sure we can get our run blocking together. Can we play strong power football and just knock guys off the thing? And then we're going to play heavy play action off of that. So we may see it this week just again to give something for Penn State to look at on film and be like, oh man, they're going to go 4 and 5 wide too.
Right.
Like, what do we prepare for?
Right.
You know, so it's a possibility we see it this week.
Stephen Riley says, got my mug. Thanks, guys. You're welcome. Thanks for watching the War Report. Auburn says, fighting Gus Malzahn's aren't doing so well. Wouldn't be a pregame without a little petty. B is giddy again. All his favorite people are losing this weekend.
Hey, man. I called it 2018. Put me on the books. Gus Malzahn needed to go. And I'm telling you, the UCF crowd talking about what they saw and why they were frustrated with that game. If I changed the colors on their avatars on Twitter, you would have thought it was 2019 already.
It was weird. It wasn't weird. It was familiar to see their fans tweeting about quarterback play and O-line and play calling.
Yeah.
That's all I saw. That's all the tweets were about. So, hopefully Harsin shows us that we're continuing to move away from that track today against a really bad San Jose State team. Blake Robinson also, I forgot to drop my LOL for Gus losing last night. I think we're pretty happy that we moved on. We got a couple minutes till kickoff. I just want to drop some score predictions, guys. What do we think on this one? What is the final score here tonight?
I think 45-3, 49-3, 45-7, 49-7, something like that.
I was gonna go in the 42 to 10 range, actually.
42-10. Okay.
Yeah, I'm hoping we don't let them in the end zone, but I think they might get a late score.
How many? We scored 45 points last week.
42.
42.
42-16.
Yeah, we didn't kick any field goals, so 42.
I'm hoping for a few more points. I still think it's going to be in the 50s. I think that San Jose State gets 10 based on what I saw from the secondary defense last week. Just not sure if those guys have 60 minutes of shutout in them this week. Happy to be wrong, of course. Right. Guys, drop us your score predictions in the comments. We're getting ready for game time. As always, this is the week 2 pregame versus San Jose State. I'm here with Ike Jones and B. Will. This is brought to you by prizepicks.com. Use code REPORT to get 100% match from prizepicks.com. They're sponsoring the War Report game day experience all year long. Now, if you've seen this, you've seen people talk about this, you can gift memberships. You can gift a membership to a fellow War Report subscriber. If you're on desktop, look for that gift membership button. They pick at random, so people who interact with our channel at a high level but aren't members yet are more likely to get these gifted memberships. It's completely random. We have no control over who gets it, but everybody has been really appreciative of the love that they're getting from other members on gifted memberships. Guys, we're getting ready for a game time. This is the War Rapport. I'm here with the crew. We're going to be back at halftime to talk about what we saw from the first 2 quarters. So stick with us, and we'll see you guys at halftime.
Where you go.